Good morning, everyone. It's Jazz. It's the West Ham Irons channel. It's the final word show on last night's pulsating, entertaining. I did say end to end, and a lot of you guys bit my head off, but for me, it was kind of end to end. It was all action, London derby, under the lights with a bit of rain, all that kind of thing that you want. So, yeah, it's the final word. It's the show, as you know. I really enjoy doing this because it's kind of 24 hours after the game. You've had time to think about it, see what other people are saying, see if anything you've missed. There's a lot of angles and things you kind of think you saw, but someone else sees it in a better way, and then you kind of, all that kind of thing. So it's a really, really good review once you've calmed down, analysed a lot of things, looked at other results, looked at the league table, looked at the press conference, and then you go into this show with you guys, really. So before I get started, please share and subscribe if you haven't. We're trying to get to 3,000 subs, and we can only do that with your support, which is great at the moment. So carry on doing that, really. So didn't know how to start with this show, really. So basically, the way I'm going to do it is... how was I feeling before the game, right? And it's been a bit of the same since David Moyes' last couple of years has been frustrating us, which means the way the game went and the way a lot of us feel is mixed emotions. We're not consistent. And I know this morning there are comments from Zuma saying we played like a family, we were psyched up, we were pressing sometimes more than we often are, and tough tackling. It was all good to see, and I could see it. That's why I enjoyed it. But why isn't that the norm? Why isn't that the norm under David Moyes' West Ham? We're not consistent. And you got to bear in mind that this squad is far more expensive than we've ever seen in our life at West Ham. These players you would have only dreamed about 5, 6, 7 years ago. So don't compare this with the teams that Bilic had or kind of Alan Pardew before. This is on another level, and we should be doing better. We should be doing better more often. And don't say, oh, it's great, we're in the top 10, we never used to be. Isn't the manager doing brilliant? He is, but I expect us to be where we are, or we're at least in the top 10. The money spent, the international stars in there, especially the front three, front four. Moyes ain't doing us any favours, right? Just being quite harsh there. I think it's the least we should be doing is hanging around the 7th, 8th, 9th spot. It's the minimum, especially because the way the league is, which I'm going to talk about a bit later on, really. So before the game, I was a bit not very confident, kind of in the middle, knowing that we're at home. Fans will be vocal, which they were, makes a big difference. They get nervous in these derbies, especially at London Stadium. We're always up for it a bit more than we should be, or normally are. And then you mix that up with we're coming off of bad results, which usually means you pick up a little bit more, especially with the derby and the game only a couple of days after that dismal defeat at Newcastle. And rightly so, David Moyes did get them prepared for this game. Although we conceded an early goal, again we go into that a little bit later on, which is a habit we can't get rid of. No clean sheets in the last 11, 12 games. Can't get rid of that either. To be fair, not a lot of the Premier League teams can. There's not many clean sheets flying around. We're not the only ones in that, really. But so that was my feelings, and then obviously went 1-0 down really early. A few fingers at Kafal. I was quite critical on Zuma because he just stood there in the middle just looking. He didn't do anything, and he's the captain. He's a centre-back. He should be organising, pointing fingers. I never get that from him normally. Don't normally get that from him. On a personal level, he's okay. He had an okay game yesterday, scored. More than okay. Really good game. But one or two situations... We're conceding too many goals. And if I was Zuma and I was the lead defender in that back four, I'll be looking at myself, right? So then again, yeah, he scored yesterday, brilliant. But it's the consistency, right? And it was end to end. We were tackling really, really well. And yeah, I didn't see that goal happening really early on. That was a bit unfortunate, but we stuck at it. We equalised fairly quickly. It was 1-1 up to half time and thereafter, right? But you got to bear in mind a lot of you actually saying that it wasn't end to end. You felt that we kind of didn't attack as much as we should have in the second half. We kind of just slow down a bit and let them come on to us again, really. I get all those comments, but you got to bear in mind, I mean, they used their fully 4, 5, 6 subs, whatever they were allowed, and you saw the calibre players that were coming on, and that's key for me. We're into the last 2-3 months, the business end of the season. We've got a very, very weak squad, virtually non-existent bench, right? And I don't think there's any subs made yesterday in the game, if I'm right? You've got to think about that. Newcastle game wasn't that long ago. It was a long trip up north. We got battered, so mentally wasn't easy. But still, the manager got them ready for it. They were psyched up. They knew in front of the home fans they got to perform. They got no choice, right? But you got to take those things into account, that we couldn't freshen it up. And the good thing in a way is it's very, very obvious now that that's kind of Antonio's time at West Ham in terms of a regular starter or 90. It's gone now. And thank God, I mean, Moisey can see it now. He can't last 90 minutes, really. And we're kind of carrying him a lot, right? He can't press. I mean, when I looked at the movement their players had, God, they were running like anything. They were running from the halfway line, pressing the goalkeepers. There was energy, youthfulness all over Spurs that I want us to be, right? We got to put our age of squad down. It's too old. And it matters in every position because it's really tight in those top big games like last night. And if your striker is huffing and puffing after 50, 60 minutes, it's going to make a difference because they're on another level in terms of energy, zipping it around. They're going to keep coming at you. And they did. And Kudos, relentless around Kudos. He was kind of fairly quiet. Again, weird way of thing. The majority think he was quiet. I think he was quiet, okay, but quiet, but due to his very, very high standards. Some of you think he was man of the match, he was brilliant. It's really weird how people see different things, isn't it, really? But for me, I think you've got to take that into account, that Antonio, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go into if David Moyes is going to be the manager next season getting you. I don't want to go into that because I've got a headache with that subject. It changes day to day, minute to minute, so I don't want to talk about that. I want a new manager and then we leave it at that. But yeah, the next transfer window, new manager or Moyes, he's got to buy a striker. There's no way Antonio can be the only striker at this club next season. No chance, because he can't do it. He can't do it. We're carrying him. And then we saw in those key moments that Jazz always tells you about, in these key matches, in the key moments, it's a proper striker, a good striker puts those chances away. And I knew he wasn't going to score when he's on clear, Antonio. I knew that. I wasn't jumping out of my seat. Go on, no. I just knew he wasn't going to do it. He cannot score the easy goals when he's got to think. He won't do it. If he's got two people hanging around him 30 yards out, he'll turn one, he'll turn the other, and he'll bullet 20, 30 yard top corner shot that'll go in twice a year. That's Antonio, right? So he wasn't going to score that. I think that's a very, very good chance. Very, very good chance, really. Dare I say it? And yesterday's thumbnail, I called it a sitter. So that's what's the difference is. Would the Son finished it? More likely than not, but you'll never know, right? But yes, all the players, we got a lot out of them last night than previous games. But bear this in mind. I enjoyed the game because it was a good London derby. In my eyes, it was end-to-end. It was non-action. Couldn't even get off my sofa for a minute. Something was happening, right? So I really enjoyed it in terms of that. And I think the referee is okay. Listen, a lot of you again saying he's bad. I think compared to the bad standards, he was kind of all right. I didn't see anything really bad, to be fair, unless I missed something. So that didn't really come into it. There wasn't too much added time and stuff like that, right? But for me, the key is, when you look at our league form since January, since this year, I think we've only won twice. We've only won 2 games in the league this season. We lost at Newcastle. We've kind of... Let me just go through it quickly. And that puts it into a nutshell. And that kind of... When you look at it in a sober kind of mind this morning, in a more calmer mind, Is a point really good? I mean, that's what I was saying yesterday. Will I take? I mean, and another thing is the press conferences of both the managers. Look at the attitude. Moy said he's very happy with the point. Their manager said, "No, I wanted to win." See, that rubs off on the players. You see what I mean? Very ambitious, is Ang, very front foot, and you see that in his players and his team. And our players, they've got a lot more than that, but they can only do with what they've got. Front three. Very, very good. Antonio struggling in fitness and things like that. And you can tell in those gaps. Defensively, we're all over the place, right? More often than not. So I can't say we were brilliant yesterday defensively. Spurs should have won they had plenty of chances to zip the ball in, and they did, and they just kept missing it. They weren't in the right places, so we weren't cutting it out. We don't stop the shots a lot. We don't cut out anything, but we were kind of together mentally as a group. I get all that, and that got us over the line. We got a point. Could have been more. London derby, that kind of thing, right? But the proper points to discuss are when you look at the form in the league. It's not good, like last season. That's worrying, right? And we didn't fix it in the January window, like I said, right? So I don't want to go through those things again. And if all the teams win their games in hand or certainly get some points, we could be as low as 11th, 12th around Chelsea. So don't look at that with 7th. It's not really true reflection. And I know it's good to get points on the board and then games in hand. I get that. But don't look at that, right? It's a funny type of league. I don't know how we're still there or thereabouts. And it's been a piss poor time in the league. We've thrown away points in all the games that you know about, right? You know all the Villas and the Burnleys and the Sheffield Uniteds. We've thrown away a lot of points, right? Including Newcastle. That's going to be added to that kind of list that we go through now, isn't it, till the end of the season? So that's worrying. The window business was worrying, right? And we've got a lot, and the bench is worrying. It's a huge thing. And it's going to matter in a game like this. And going back to your point, why didn't we press? Why didn't we keep going late second half? It's how much can you give? You've got to rotate, right? And we've got 4 games happening in a fortnight. We've got the Leverkusen 2 games there. We've got Wolves coming up. There's one other game, I forgot what it was. Wolves and Fulham, is it? I think Fulham, right? Games are coming very, very quickly. But for me, it's a worry how are we going to get through these games with no bench, no squad, nothing. How are these players going to do it? I don't know. Because when it's going to hit 60, 65 minutes, I'm going to get even more worried. Because I'll be looking at Antonio, and Antonio huffs and puffs after 5 minutes. So after 60, he can't do it. He can't do it. And it's those kind of things that you worry about. And God, did we miss Alvarez, didn't we? And I'd stick my head out and say, if Alvarez played in the Newcastle game and tonight, we would have definitely got more points out of 2 games. I know it's a team game, but I think he makes such a difference to us. And I know Souček did a lot of good things yesterday and does, and got a lot of fans, and Ward-Prowse who did really, really good as well. They're not CDMs like Alvarez. You're tenacious tackling, you're proper CDM, no messing about. That's the kind of players I like, right? The Højbjerg types, the Rice types. You can see them, they're visible, they intercept, they tackle, they break up play. I don't see that with Souček. I don't see that with Ward-Prowse a lot. I know Prowse did it yesterday more than usual, but I'm talking about consistent. That's why I'm reserved this morning about really happy about this point and the performance. I'm very reserved because it's been shit this season in the league, largely. We've let ourselves down, right? We should... When the game starts, you look at our team, the value, the pedigree of the players. We should be winning most games often than not, and we don't. Bit of that's large. I mean, a fair bit of that is the manager not rotating and in-game manager not doing any subs at the right times, or none at all like yesterday. A lot of that's to do with him. So sometimes I don't feel sorry for David Moyes, even though he is managing our club and we should be on the same side. He doesn't do himself any favours, right? It's very up and down. We've got Wolves at the weekend away. Let's see if we're going to apply ourselves like that in the same way. The problem is we could be 2-0 up at half-time. It's our defence, it crumbles. And it's a bit of that what David Moyes was saying. When I really looked at David Moyes' comment, on Newcastle I wanted to kill him after the game. But when I calmed down and listened to his conference, and he was right saying that, sooner or later, in the last 20 minutes of every game in the second half, we're pretty open. The teams are coming a lot more onto us, and he panics. He panics anyway, but he panics a bit more. But then that's just him, though. You should have more defensive players on the bench that you can bring in, because, like I said, you cannot keep assuming that Paqueta, Antonio, Bowen, Kudos, Alvarez, that none of them are going to get injured, because you've seen it. You've seen the impact those 5-6 players make. If one of them is missing in any game, we feel it. We feel it. On top of that, it's a very average aging defence. Goalkeeper's still an issue with, people keeps getting injured, rotating, and all that kind of thing that we need to improve on, really. So having looked at it, yeah, we got a point, but I don't think that's good enough. Because what this means, and I hate saying these, sort of, we have to win this game, must win. I hate saying that, but the Wolves away game, the Fulham ones, we've got to get 6 points out of the 2 games, because we've fucked about too much. We've messed about far too much in the other Ponzi games. We've got to win these 2. A draws ain't no good enough to anymore. I'm telling you that right now. If we want to qualify for Europe in the league, we've got to really wake up and be brutal. And it is unfortunate. Squad the bench, it is what it is. There's nothing the players can do about that, and I'll be very surprised if they don't get injured. I mean, Bowen got battered yesterday. His ankle, they were smashing the shit out of his ankle, every single Spurs player, and how he carries on, I ain't got a clue, right? Paqueta's only kind of one game away from doing his back, his shoulder, because he's very physical. He goes in smashing players, gets smashed himself, and I don't want to take that away from his game, right? And that is worrying, right? If we had a better bench, had a better striker backup than Antonio, then I would be so more confident in every game we go into, because then I wouldn't be afraid or nervous or anything, really. But what's worrying me now is the inconsistency game to game. That's why I'm not really that high or low anymore. Even though we score, we concede, I don't get as animated as I used to, because if we score first, then I'm just thinking, well, let's watch the whole game and see what happens, because you've seen what's around the corner. And vice versa, if we go 1-2-0 down, I don't really worry about it too often. I just watch, because sometimes we do get back into it more often than not. So it's a very topsy-turvy, up and down each game. We're not consistent. We don't know what we're going to get. It's going to be 4, 5, 6 goals. We don't know which way it's going to go. Is it going to be 3-3? Are we going to win 4-2? Are we going to lose 4-2? It's that kind of thing, right? And it's that kind of league, to be fair. I mean, look at the amount of goals in the last weekend's games. 4-3, 3-3, 2-2. It's all over it's a modern Premier League, maybe. So that's kind of the thing I'm kind of looking at, really, this morning. So to summarise, it's not really good 1 point from Newcastle and Spurs. It's not good. It's a good performance, but I'm not confident that they'll play like that in the next 2 games at Wolves and Fulham, where they're united from the kick-off. They're tackling hard. They're going for every ball more than they often do, attacking a bit more often than they do. I haven't got the confidence to say that. They've got to prove it to me next 2 games that they're gonna get 4 points out of the next 2 at a minimum. And we're getting consistency, because we've got those Leverkusen 2 games as well. So for me, I think we've missed a trick, being 3-1 up at Newcastle, 1-1 Antonio, missed that. I think we missed a few points there that we could have got. That's the way I'm looking at it, really. So all good. I mean, you don't want to lose to them. We've got to draw. But the way I'm thinking is that, I've got to be proved. Yeah, I'm not that happy at the moment. I'm not sad, not happy. I'm kind of in the middle. That's the way the team are playing, And I'm not going to take those comments of, they, I don't want to over celebrate a point too much, which I think the players are doing at the moment, especially the club on their website. I think we've got enough good players to kind of do that more often and a bit more, right? I want us to celebrate wins, not defeats, and not forget that largely this season in the league we have fucked up big time. That's where I'm sitting this morning. I want to see what we're going to do at Wolves and Fulham, and we need 4 points out of those 2 minimum. No, we don't need 2 draws. We don't need a defeat in a draw, and I don't want a defeat in a win. I want a minimum 4 out of the next 2, and then I'll be much more impressed, much more happier that we're really trying to yeah, stay in that 7th or 8th in the European League spot, really. So that's it from me, everyone. Put your comments down. See what you feel this morning. Do you feel different to last night than this morning? That's the point of the show. Yesterday, I was really happy. But when you think about it, I think I was really happy with the entertainment of the game. I was really happy about that. And I was happy with the point. And this morning, when I look at the overall picture of, if we only had a better squad on the bench, we could have won that last night. We could have beaten Newcastle in the other games. And we're not consistent. That kind of thing weighs everything down, isn't it, really? So that's it from me. I'll catch up with you later on with another show shortly, really. So, yeah, take care. Have a great day. Come on, you irons.